because God didn't create us to work. He didn't create us to go and work a 9 to 5 every day and that be our purpose. It's a terrible purpose, man. He didn't create us to win either, because you should never find your purpose in winning, because when you lose, who are you? Unless you have a great relationship of understanding that in the loss, there's lessons. So he didn't create us to win either. But what did he create us for then? He created us maybe for the process and the journey and the lessons we get to learn in life and the people we get to meet and the relationships we get to make. So I'm understanding this now. And the more that I understand this, the more I get fired up to go be of service and be a Jake Bryden for somebody else, because we're all getting our own story written in life. And I feel like our purpose in life isn't necessarily to go and make money, to go and get more possessions. It's to go and win a bunch of stuff, to get that promotion. That's not our purpose. Those are all nice. But maybe our purpose is to figure out what type of story God's trying to write in our lives. And when you understand that, you're truly living. And I feel like I'm truly living right now. And I ask you and I invite you to please live with me in this journey. Understand that if you haven't found your purpose yet, and this is how you can get involved, then let's go hand in hand. Let's go fight for this guy.
Welcome back to the Get Back Podcast. I'm Zeke Pike. I'm here with my co-host Greg Kelly, and today's episode is sponsored by Just Meats. Use code GETBACK for $25 off. Today we got a boys episode.
Yeah, boys episode, man. You never know what you're going to get with this boys episode. Today we're going to talk on what's near and dear to our hearts, what's going on in our lives currently, reflections, anything we can share with you. Also, on our next boys episode, we're open to suggestions too. So leave them in the comments what you would like for us to talk about. Anything we want to, you want us to expound upon. We're more than willing to be able to do it. And so, hey, you guys are what makes our job here fun. So please engage and get involved. But hey, today's episode, we want to talk about just a couple things that we have, me and Zeke, what we're doing right now outside of the podcast. Like this podcast has been so much fun for us to do. We've had some amazing guests so far, from vets to my own wife, to my own family members that were part of my case, to, of course, the earlier on episodes with Nick. And we've got to hear about how people have overcome disabilities, and also just tragic stories of how people have pulled I don't even know what words to even describe Taylor's story of what he went through with his wife. But the perseverance that was pulled out of that is so much of an inspiration just by the comments that you guys left with, hey, oh my gosh, I do need to advocate for my own health. And I think, advocating for your own health to advocating to a lot of other things in your life, super important, because you are your biggest supporter. Remember that. And so, I want to go ahead and just start with what Zeke and I are working on currently outside of the podcast. If you guys haven't noticed yet, we developed something called the Vindication Foundation. It stems off of my own personal run-in with being falsely accused, wrongfully convicted, and my life being absolutely derailed by being wrongfully imprisoned. Brief story if you're new and you're just tuning into the podcast. I was wrongfully convicted back in 2014 for a crime I didn't do. I was a football player, on to go play college football, had a girlfriend, and my whole ambition was to go and make it out of the hometown that I lived in to go and play college ball. And that was completely derailed, and it took 6 long years to prove my innocence. And we did, and it's something that's a miracle in the state of Texas to do. And so that's my own personal story. I know Zeke has struggled with drug addictions. He's, went to and had to go and get consequences he rightfully deserved. But, I'll have him talk about that here in a little bit. But Zeke's Get Back is also another reason why we're doing the Get Back. And it's amazing to be able to make friends with somebody who essentially is kind of almost like my other half when it comes to doing the Vindication Foundation. And so, I'm constantly enjoying developing a relationship with him, but also I think it encourages me to know that I've got a great supporter who essentially could be the mouthpiece of the whole thing, because I could speak, but I'm not a salesman. I know this guy is. That's a God-gifted talent of his. So, we got to bring on some. We had Jake Bryden on here, and man, that episode's powerful because, as you know, Jake was my hero, the guy who led the charge on rallying up the troops, the guy who, if it wasn't for him, perfect strangers like you who are listening right now would not get involved with helping to save my life. And if that wasn't possible, this wouldn't be possible. And what I mean by this, it's not the podcast, it's the Vindication Foundation. Podcast, yes, but it's the Vindication Foundation. It's the ability to use the cards that were dealt to you in life to go and help somebody else who's going through exactly what you once went through. And so that's kind of where we're operating from now with the Vindication Foundation. And I'm honored to say that we have accepted and are going to represent and help free and bring home an innocent soul whose name is Guy Heinze Jr. He's going to be the first guy that we go and fight for. He's the first guy that we're going to rally for. And we need your help, please, if you can, to use the networks you have, also your voice, to just follow along and learn more as we do this. And so I want to shift it over to Zeke and have him explain a little bit more of the dynamics of the Vindication Foundation.
Yeah. So, when it's funny because when we first started doing the podcast, you kept talking about, this dream that you had, right? And I think sometimes God allows us to have dreams and visions as confirmation or maybe clarity for maybe what the next move can be, right? And so I think you were at a place where you were like, I'm not sure what this means, but like I know it means something of significance, right? And so one thing I've learned in my life is sometimes you just got to go. My grandpa, who passed away about a year ago, who really was like my saving grace when my dad passed away, I would always say, hey, Paul, this is what I'm thinking about. This is and he'd always say, go for it. Go for it. And so that was kind of my initial thing for you, was like, okay, well, let's do it. Right. Like, let's do it, and that's what we've done this far, and is just do it. Right. And we have a really cool event that's coming August 24th. If you're in the Leander, Cedar Park, Austin area, we invite you. We'll put the details in the description below for you to be able to buy tickets and be a part of this event, this special night that's going to really kickstart the foundation. And, you touched on Guy Heinze. We'll put a brief segment here in just a second of Guy's story and give you an idea of what Guy's going through currently and what Guy has had to endure and the unfortunate consequences that he's had to face due to the lack of investigation, right? The lack of care for his situation and what he's going through. And then, prosecutors and DAs not necessarily looking to help somebody, but just to get a prosecution, right? And to be done with it. And so I want to take this moment to just share Guy's story and give you an idea of the face that we're going to be fighting for the next months, years, however long it takes, until Guy's sitting on this couch right here next to us, providing a podcast episode to you. So I want to take this minute. Our producer Jacob's put together a really cool video of Guy's story. Take a look.
Where's your emergency?
New Hope Plantation, Highway 17 North.
Okay, by New Hope, what's going on, ma'am?
There's a kid guy just came home and his whole family is dead. He's kind of hysterical. I can't understand. I haven't gone over there yet.
Okay, tell me what the address is. Try and get that address for me.
145, 140. It's and it's around to the back side.
Hope Plantation?
Yes, ma'am. This is Guy. I don't know what his last name is. He said his dad is dead. Rusty's dead. He said everybody's dead. I know it's a house full of people that live there. I just got home. My whole family's dead.
Okay, tell me what's going on, sir. What?
I just got home from. I was out last night. I got home just now, and everybody's dead.
Who?
I got my dad's dead.
How many people are there?
There's like 6. My whole family's dead.
Okay.
It looks like they've been beaten to death. I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know what to do, man.
Okay. Take a deep breath. Vic, I'm coming for you. Just stay on the line with me, okay?
We have made an arrest in the murder of the 8 victims in New Hope Mobile Home Park. In addition, charges have been filed for attempted murder against a 3-year-old child that was in that home. Very late this afternoon, 2 pieces of information came forward to us. We took those 2 pieces of information, compared it to the whole of all the evidence collected all week long. We were satisfied that led us to believe that Guy Heinze Jr. is a responsible person for the murders.
Why was Guy not at the house? Let's talk about that first. Guy was not at the house because he drove his car down to a park and did drugs. Then he drove back home, and when he got back home, his whole family had been murdered. He walks in early in the morning, finds his Down syndrome cousin beaten almost to death. He runs outside, yells at the neighbors to call the police, which is exactly what you do if you just beat 8 people to death.
Yeah.
He gets in bed with his cousin and keeps him alive until the ambulance gets there, and had 1 drop of blood on his shorts. He was wearing shorts and then basketball shorts underneath the shorts that he was wearing, kind of thing. And that blood from his cousin that was the only drop of blood that he had on him, was from being in bed with his cousin, keeping the last remaining witness, supposedly, keeping him alive until the ambulance got there. Not only are they alleging that he killed all other 7, but that he beat his Down syndrome cousin almost to death and then kept him alive until the ambulance. It's just such a stupid story,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't make any sense.
Several witnesses that claim that they found bloody nunchucks in their yard and bloody hammer in their yard. They called the police. The police came and got them with blood and hair on them that were obviously used for these 8 murders, and they got lost.
So guys, I know right now you're probably emotionally touched and you want to know how you can help, right? This is the same thing when Greg and I first started to do our research on Guy Heinze and Jake Bryden, who you saw just last episode, who's shared his experience with fighting for Guy this far, right? We're doing that, okay? And in the description below, you can go to the vindicationfoundation.com and you're going to have an opportunity to donate to start to fight for Guy's case, right? You're going to be able to see and follow the content, guys. Follow the vindicationfoundation.com, but follow on all platforms, the Vindication Foundation, and follow Guy's story, right? And so I want to kind of go into like, again, this is your foundation, right? And you say, yeah, on the other half, that's what it takes sometimes for good businesses and good foundations, but good relationships, right? God calls us to love somebody else, right? There's usually somebody else that can help us, right? It's really hard to do things alone. And so you brought this to me and you're like, we got to fight for this guy, right? This dude completely is screwed, right? Where you're losing sleep over it. And then I'm watching and I'm doing my research, losing sleep over it. So you tell me, but tell the audience specifically, like what it was that sparked a fire inside of you that says, this is the first person that this foundation is going to represent. And I'm fully confident in your decision. I believe this is the right person. And I truly believe that Guy's going to sit on this couch right next to us one day. I believe that. But I want you to tell the audience, like, what it was that stirred the fire in you to be like, of all the people, we're going to fight for a lot of people, right? But being a new foundation, starting from scratch, we have to start somewhere, right? And I kept saying, Greg, we got to find a face, pray about it, believe in it. What do you think? Who do you think that is? And then Guy comes into the picture. And here we are now. We're about to do all the necessary efforts that we need to raise awareness, to build a community, just like that was built around GK when people were fighting for GK. Yeah. And they had that community standing outside the courthouse, showing up at Leander High School, fighting for you. It's the same community that we're going to establish right now for Guy. But I want you to tell the audience what sparked the fire inside of you.
Yeah. So before even fighting for Guy, I just want to go ahead and start with me getting out of prison, getting exonerated. You know, for me, man, it was a time of my life where everything was just happening all at the same time, and I couldn't process what was going on. I mean, imagine being falsely accused, going through the nightmares of just, do you even trust the justice system? Do you trust the police? Of course you do, right? I mean, don't you watch Law and Order? They get the bad guys. I mean, every time, right? They find the truth. Don't you think that they're going to find the truth, right? Don't you think they're in it and wear that badge to find the truth? Don't you think that jurors are educated enough to decipher from when a prosecutor is trying to win you over to get you to convict the person they're trying to get convicted, so their conviction rate stays high in their county? Right. Don't you know all this, right? And of course you watch Law and Order, and they from start to finish, they finish a case within 1 hour. But that's not how this works at all. Mine took 6 years from start to finish. Guy Heinze Jr. has been in prison for 12 years. Now, there's dynamics that need to be set in place to go and fight for someone who has been accused, tried, and convicted, okay? Once you get convicted, it's no longer you are innocent until proven guilty. I don't even think that, I'm just saying, I'm speaking from my own experience, and you can only speak from what you know and what your only experience is. You should never be giving your opinion or input unless you don't know what you're talking about. From my experience, I was painted guilty the whole time. And I'll just explain to you the similarities of Guy's case and my case. And I've had a lot of cases come past my email and past my messages, my DMs, and I've read them and I've looked into them. I've had so many yearning hearts reach out to me saying, please help my loved one. Please help my friend. We need your help. You've been through it. Yeah. And it sucks, man. It sucks that I can't help everyone. Yeah. And I have to carry this burden of the worst fear I have going into this is I want to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt, just like a juror should have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 99.9% sure, because you'll never actually fully 100% know, right? Unless you can DNA evidence, there's nothing, you know what I mean? And we want to get to that point. We want 100% know and follow our convictions. But at the same time, you want to be so tuned into your convictions. And ultimately, that's a big part of my faith, is I'm faith driven, is every hard decision that I have to make, bro, I take it to God. And I ask God, man, I need your guidance here. I need your help. Don't let my discernment get in the way, right? Don't let my biases get in the way. Don't let any of that get in the way. Just show me the truth here. And Donna King, the judge who exonerated me, she had to do that for herself when my file was on her desk. Mm-hmm. She told me, and I've had meetings with her afterwards, that I needed to consult with my creator to figure out what I'm going to do with you. Yeah. That's how there's very rare cases where I had to do that. And yours was, I was so torn within myself, I had to consult with something higher than me. So I did with Guy Heinze case. And part of the whole Vindication Foundation is to be able to create a vetting process to find the ones that we can go and bring home. And unfortunately, we can't do them all, but we will do the ones that ultimately me and our team would be convicted to go and fight for. Yeah. So Guy's case in particular, it hits home for me because Jake Bryden, and Jake did not come up to me with Guy's case. He didn't ask me, hey, what I did for you, Greg, and how I listened to the convictions within myself to go and help you. I never thought in the world, after you were exonerated, I just remember telling myself, I can't do this again. Like I'm one and done. Like this is it's like I won a Super Bowl and it's done, dude. Like
we
I'm
talked about
satisfied.
that last episode. Yeah,
we talked about that with Jake's episode. He's like, I cannot physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually do this again. Like it ate me alive. And Jake had to play a messy fight sometimes. And you have to get messy because it is political. It's crazy. Politics runs a society, it runs a country, it runs everything. And so he says being political gets nasty. And I don't want to play a nasty game anymore. I don't want to do that. I said, okay, how can we do this without getting political, right? How can we do this? And if we do get political, where can we understand the fine line? And like, how can we ultimately just operate with truth? And so Jake has been very, very highly involved with Guy's case.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the deciding factor for me, right? But I remember I saw a post on Facebook, and I didn't fully look into Guy's case. Jake's been working with Guy's case for a few years, but I wasn't fully invested yet because I was still trying to find peace within myself. I wasn't worried about fighting for anybody else right now. I was just trying to get my way back in the swing of things out here in the world, because I was spit back into the economy after doing 4 years in prison. I mean, 4 years is enough to kind of lose your way in society, right? I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to, be a husband and being all I could be in that. And so I wasn't in a place. So I revisited Guy's case after Jake had told it to me years ago. And it was a Guy's support group on Facebook posted something, and the vindication's fresh on my heart. It's fresh on my mind. I'm like, I'm ready to go fight, but I don't know who I'm going to fight for. So run across this post, click it, and it's just an update on what Guy's doing. And so it's been doing good, and he's trying to grow in a lot of things, and his case is still at a standstill in a court. And then I realized that Keith Hampton, my attorney who was fighting for me, is actually representing Guy. I said, wow, Jake's fighting for Guy, Keith's fighting for Guy. I talked to Keith about it. Hey, what's going on with Guy's case? Keith's ultimately the one who told me all about Guy's case and how it's an absolute botched investigation. And I know Keith, okay? Keith told me he has enough to exonerate this guy. Let me tell you something, Zeke. The last time Keith told me that I have enough to exonerate, I was coming home. I was coming home, dude. And Keith does not give those words out lightly at all. Yeah. I was coming home. And so when Keith says I have enough to exonerate, I just need a hearing date. I just need a court date. I need a judge and these DAs to hear me on this. The last time he said that, he couldn't get past slide 7 without Sean Digg, the prosecutor, the new DA in the county who reopened my case, absolutely disgusted with the new evidence of my innocence. He was immediately on the phone with the Texas Rangers to reopen my case. Keith is saying the exact same thing about Guy's case. So now it's like everything's pointing to Guy for me. Like, I've been trying to pray to God, man, who we're going to represent. Lord, just send me somebody that I can go fight for.
Yeah.
I need to go and do this. And I need this within myself. And it's ultimately, I'm stepping into a Jake Bryden moment. And when we had Jake on the podcast, when Jake was speaking, I saw him just light up with passion. And when Jake was talking, I was like, man, I want that. I need that in order to do this. And we got to express to Jake, hey, man, I already made my mind up. We're fighting for Guy.
Yeah. Like,
I've seen enough. I've heard enough. I remember sending it to you. I remember texting you. I thought you were asleep. I said, hey, are you up? And you're like, just laying here. And I was like, watch this video, man. And he's like, oh my God. And you're like, he's like, I will stay up till 1:30 in the morning watching all of Guy's stuff. And here's the thing, man, all that's out there, all of Guy's evidence and all of Guy's truth, all the truth that points towards Guy Heinze Jr. being innocent is out there, but there was never been a platform to rally behind him to go and fight for him, because just as important as the courts are to prove your innocence, you also have to prove it to the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
You have to prove it to these audience that are on the side of this camera.
But I think that's exactly what I want to challenge our audience to do, is to do your own research and look into this. And we're going to give you all the information and evidence that we can provide you through our platforms. But I think Jake even touched on it in his episode, is like, you had everything in your favor, right? You had the cute girlfriend, you had the girlfriend's family behind you, had the community behind you. You had what the majority of innocent people who are in prison right now probably don't have. What's up, guys? We just wanted to take a quick moment to thank our main sponsor for today's episode, Just Meats. We've been testing out the Just Meats products for the last few weeks, and we absolutely love them. A few of my personal favorites are the Hawaiian, teriyaki beef and chicken, and the braised beef as well. Just Meats is a meal prep service fueled purely by grass-fed, grass-finished meats. Every Just Meats product comes with a pound of meat prepped and ready to go. Each Just Meats product comes with 4 servings. Every serving is 30 grams of protein or more. The ingredients are extremely clean and allergy friendly. And Just Meats offers a variety of chicken, pork, and beef products and has over 15 different flavor options to choose from. And not to mention, they come out with a subscriber exclusive flavor each month, and the raspberry barbecue chicken was incredible. You can create a one-time order to try out the Just Meats products, or you can sign up now for a subscription to have great quality protein delivered to your doorstep each month. So guys, use code GETBACK to get $25 off your order. And first-time subscribers get 20% off their order and an additional $25 when they use code GETBACK at checkout. Subscribers continue to get 10% off their order each month. And guys, subscribers have exclusive access to specialty meat flavors that change monthly. You don't want to miss this. So check out Just Meats products at justmeats.com and make sure you use code GETBACK. Now back to the episode.
Yeah.
Is that support. And that's who we are, right? And so it's like, that's what the Vindication Foundation is about, is creating that community, is getting people like you and your family and your friends to do your own research and understand, like, if you or your brother, your sister, your mother, your father was sitting in a prison cell and they were innocent, would you not go to any depth of possible to fight for them and fight for the truth?
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, that's what it's about. Like, you were fortunate, like really fortunate that when Jake was like, hey, Gabriel, call the troops showed up. But like, unfortunately, we're in a situation right now where, like, we have the evidence, we have the hard facts, we know Guy's innocent, and we know that we can bring him home, but we have to gather the troops. And we need you. We need you. We need your family. We need your friends to gather around Guy right now.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, ultimately not just Guy, but the faces that we're going to represent in the future, the faces that are going to be sitting on this couch in the future. Those are the people that we have to get behind. Doesn't matter if you're in Leander, Texas, or Cedar Park, or Austin. You can be anywhere in any country in the world, and you can be a part of this fight.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what it's important that we drive home to you guys, is like, Greg Kelly wouldn't be sitting on this couch right now. Like, this is not possible if it's not for people like Jake Bryden, if it's not for foundations like the Vindication Foundation that can fight for voices that don't have the ability to be heard. You didn't get a voice when you were in there.
No.
That just, you don't get that. And so I think that's what I challenge our audience. I challenge our viewers, do your research and just take a second and think. Like, if you can relate to Greg's story and you can understand what he went through and you're touched by that, imagine the 70,000+ people, 70,000+ people that are sitting in a prison cell right now, who have been there not for 4 years. They didn't fight for 6 years. Guy Heinze Jr. has been in there for 12 years. There's people who have been there for 25, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Innocent.
People die in prison innocent.
So I think that's an important thing for, like, our audience and our viewers to understand, is like, yeah, we want to fight for Guy. We want Guy to sit on this couch with us, and we want to bring Guy home because he deserves to be home. Nobody who's innocent deserves to have their life taken away from them, right? But that's only possible if you guys can get behind what we're doing. It's bigger than just Greg. Greg's on the couch, but it's the 70,000+ people that need to be sitting on the couch right now, who just need a community around them to fight for them.
Yeah. You know, in Guy's case is special to me, man, because Guy, right now he doesn't have a voice, and I didn't have a voice. My voice wasn't enough, and Guy's voice isn't enough.
Yeah.
Guy, he's in a position where he is guilty until proven innocent for sure. I mean, and proving somebody innocent, man, it's an absolute miracle to do, right? I'm the 205th exonerated person of the state in Texas, and there's only been a handful since I've been exonerated, and there's only been a low number of 200 and something people in Texas's history to be exonerated. Well, Guy's case is in Georgia, backwoods Georgia, good old boy system Georgia. I mean, even just to kind of give a brief synopsis of Guy's situation on what has gone wrong. You know what? We'll go ahead and start with the beginning part, right? He's being accused of ultimately killing his whole family, beating them to death in a trailer, not shooting them to death. He's convicted of beating his whole family to death in a trailer. Okay. I don't know, man. Just off the top of my head, one guy going in there, right? And just of the worst of things, it's your family.
Yeah.
Right? What's the motive behind the family? Okay. Now, I'm thinking right now, this guy must have been John Wick to do that, because I can't do that.
Yeah.
You're talking about 8 people that are fully conscious and awake. And then on top of that, like, you would think somebody would be resisting, and you would have no marks on his body.
You need a machine gun to be able to do it.
Exactly. No marks on his body. Okay. And then, I mean, the dispatch call. I mean, the 911 call.
And they heard it. They heard it on the video.
You heard it. This man, everything inside of him, every noise, every sound of agony coming from his voice, every brokenness, is just him just literally getting hit by a tidal wave that he just lost his whole family, crying. And with that, immediately the police zero him in as a suspect. I don't know, man. It gets worse. They start interrogating him as he's the suspect. They don't interview any other suspects. They don't follow up with evidence leads. The sheriff, after him being convicted with absolutely no evidence other than a blood on his shorts, which, by the way, his cousin was hanging on for dear life to stay alive, okay, in a bed, completely bleeding out. When he goes back into the house after crying on the lawn, he gets in bed with his cousin trying to keep him alive. And that blood he gets on him is used against him in court to convict him. But he was just trying to save maybe the last person of his family. The prosecution had the audacity to use that only piece of evidence against him to convict him. And now he's serving life without the possibility of parole. I can't even imagine thinking about losing my whole family and I don't even have time to grieve, because now I'm being painted as a monster, but I'm also having to now defend my life. So there's absolutely no process for me to actually grieve and maybe potentially honor through the grief my family who I just lost. So Guy's case, if you just think about it, it goes to the trenches of your heart to know that that could be your family member going through that. I've heard that a lot in my case. Jake said, man, if that was my brother and if that was my family member, then I would put in the effort and fight for Greg as if he was my brother or my family member. And so Jake explained multiple times that he had to remember that. And Guy is sitting in prison innocent. And I look at him now that I'm innocent, now that I've declared myself to be fully innocent. I proved that thing, man. There's still people on the internet, small group, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, that call me a pedophile. Yeah. I've proven my innocence. I now have the ability, if I wanted to hold anybody who declares in a mass way on social media. I can hold them civilly accountable for trying to say something I'm not, because ultimately I've proven and I've reserved the right to never be called a pedophile again, to never be called a child molester again. I fought for that because I was found guilty of that and painted that.
And I think that's with a guy. It's like, not only are you grieving, and not only has your life now been taken away from you, but both you and I know very well there is no such thing as until innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until you prove your innocence. And so the media has already painted him as a monster. Like in his town, he's a monster to a lot of people, right? Like he's a monster that murdered his whole family, right? It's the same thing, like very similar to what you were dealing with, like being called a child molester, but then being told that like, you don't have a family anymore and you murdered them. But I didn't.
Yeah.
What do you mean I did? I love my family. Like, well, I would never do that.
Imagine living with that. Imagine waking up every day and your best friends and your own maybe distant family believes you actually killed their family,
right?
Their friends, right? Their best friends, their loved ones. Some of those people, when they were married, they had girlfriends, and you're painted as the person who, by the way, the crime he was convicted for is declared the worst mass murder in Georgia's history. It's crazy. I'm just looking forward to the day because it's not if, it's when.
Let's talk about like where we're at.
Yeah.
This far in the case, and I think that's important because it's not for lack of evidence. I think right now it's 100% for a lack of awareness, and I think the more awareness that we can raise, the more support that we can circle the wagons, right?
Yeah.
Around Guy, and we can start to make it known, not just on this platform, not just on the Vindication, not just on ours, but on your platform, your friends' platforms, your family's platforms, what we're doing and who we're fighting for right now, right? Because I don't think it's a lack of information. I don't think it's a lack of evidence. It's creating the urgency through the lack of awareness by building a community of support around Guy and this foundation supporting Guy that's going to ultimately say, we better open this thing up and take it to trial and look at it because we got a lot of freaking pressure on our ass right now.
Yeah. If it wasn't for
support, that's exactly what happened with you.
If it wasn't for support, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for perfect strangers going to the rallies, I don't have my phone on me, but using that phone as a tool, right? Jake had mentioned that, and he mentioned that, I mean, inside his truck, man, while I was sitting in prison on a maximum security prison, I got to watch the countless amount of videos. Jake recorded for me. He was talking for me. And, I look at Jake, I'm like, man, I need that. If I'm going to go and fight for Guy, I need that. I need people to please do that, because it's not just going to be my voice that's going to free Guy and bring Guy home, but it's going to be everyone else who echoes that cry with me. That's right. And we're not crying like free Guy Heinze, free Guy Heinze. We're crying, let's seek the truth. Let's seek the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what it's about.
Because the truth will set him free.
That's right.
So it's not like, hey, bring Guy Heinze home because we doubt maybe or anything. No. We believe wholeheartedly into the truth, and the truth is what's going to set Guy free.
Yeah.
So we need to urge county officials, county prosecutors, and the county in Georgia where Guy's at to please just give him the day in court.
Yeah.
Give Keith Hampton the day in court to bring forth the evidence that's going to exonerate Guy, because that's all Keith asked for me. I mean, there's a statement that Keith made to the newspaper. He says, man, if you just give me my day in court, then I will prove to you got the wrong guy. Man, when attorneys, man, they're
attorneys
smart.
won't put their neck on the line.
They would
like
not
that.
put their
They
name
won't
on the
do that.
line doing that, because they know that the backfire
Their
and the
reputation's
consequences to their reputation
It's ruined.
is going to be more. It's
Not only that, but a pedophile.
Yeah.
Like somebody being labeled a pedophile. You're think about what you're not fighting. That's a whole nother level than like a murder in a lot of people's eyes, right? You know what I mean? So what he's saying about Guy Heinze Jr. right now, and you said it. He said, Greg, I'm more confident in his case than I was in yours.
Yeah, he straight up told me that. He says there's more. Now he's like, dude, Keith is a silent assassin. Okay, Keith's not going to show his cards. Keith's not going to tell you what he's got. He's going to wait for that day in court. He's patient, right? And he executes. That's just how he is, man. And he straight up told me, he's like, Greg, I can't promise you anything, but if I get my day in court, I'm going to straight up give it my all and show that I have enough to exonerate you. Now, what the judge does is totally up to her. And what the 9 judges in the Court of Criminal Appeals do, we just please and better hope. And he actually said, you better hope and pray to God that they do their work and their job with integrity.
They don't mess this up.
They do it by the law, because by the law, you will be exonerated. When Keith told me that, of course, it gave me confidence to know that I'm going to finally prove my innocence and that the truth will prevail and that the truth would bring me home and that I could salvage whatever life I have left, even with the trauma that I do have. Because the amount of trauma that you develop, man, going through being wrongfully convicted, being thrown into a life you don't deserve, a life you never thought you would be in, a place in a world you never thought you would be in, the amount of adjusting. I mean, the things you have to see, the things you have to do, the things you have to say, it's enough to change who you are if you're not careful. And I know right now guys going through it all. I know guys having to survive. And man, it sucks, man, when you live every day on survival mode. Now, the good thing about it is you learn grit and perseverance and you become a pretty hard mother effer. But you should not be going through anything you don't deserve. And I've always had a funny relationship with the line, you don't get what you want in life, you get what you deserve. I didn't deserve to go to prison, right? But I'll tell you what I gained from prison is enough where I'm pretty glad I deserved what I gained. And what I gained from it is the perseverance and the grit and the ability to suffer and get through it in order, in my part, and what I'm going to do and go run these ultras and to be able to get to that finish line and show you that I'm not just interested, bro. I'm freaking committed. Like, I'm freaking committed. Like, I'm going to at least bring one guy home, right? No pun intended, but I'm going to bring one person home. And if I can bring more, great. But I'm going to bring one at least. And I'm going to do what Jake did for me. And I want everyone else to know that I can't do it alone. Zeke and I can't do it alone. And I would not be sitting here unless you guys showed up in any way you see fit that you can contribute. Either reach out, volunteer, please, when we do events. Reach out with your legal services if you have them. If you're an attorney or you're a legal aid, reach out. If whatever, I mean, we'll have a spot. But we just ask you to please get involved, help us. And let's bring this guy home.
Yeah. And I think it's about just reposting this, right? Reposting this episode, reposting these clips, sharing this message, right? And I think that's extremely important. And we'll keep it brief because I think we've touched on a lot and it's important, but I want to touch on not just Guy, right? Because Guy is who we're going to fight for, and Guy will be sitting on this couch. But to the individual that's watching this right now that maybe just got that slip in the mail, or is about to get that slip in the mail and says, hey, you got to show up for jury duty, because ultimately what sent you away was 12 people not understanding the truth, whether they were being led astray or not. Those 12 people said, hey, he's guilty. Then they decided the sentence, right? So for the person who's getting jury duty slip or already got the jury duty slip and they're about to show up for jury duty, or sometime in the near future when that jury duty slip comes through the mail, from somebody who spent time in prison, wrongfully convicted, what is your, because this is a huge part of the foundation, right?
Yeah, huge.
Explain, because I think it's extremely important that we touch on this before we finish this episode. Understanding the importance of that freaking responsibility when you are called upon jury duty. If you are not fit, don't show up.
Straight up.
Don't show up, because you almost cost my brother his entire life.
Yeah. It's huge, man. It's huge. More so on the awareness and education part. Awareness to understand that you need to be qualified and equipped for what role you're about to step into, what you're about to be called to, what your actual civic duty and right is in America as a citizen of a county that you live in, which is going to go fulfill your civic duty of being a juror and potentially sitting in a jury box with ultimately somebody's fate in your hands. Imagine that for a second. Imagine you sitting in a jury box with other people to sit next to you saying, hey, man, we got to judge somebody. And holy crap, the guy we're judging, it might cost him his life.
Yeah.
You know? Now, and then you're equipped with being told by a prosecutor, which, by the way, the prosecutor's intentions is to make sure that they get somebody, and I'm gonna say it straight up, to get somebody so naive and so dumb that they can say whatever they need to say as if they're selling ice to an Eskimo. Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Don't be that person. Have the discernment to understand when a prosecutor is being slimy and conniving. I'm going to tell you straight up. I'm going to tell you a little story. I was compared to in pre-trial jury selection to Ted Bundy. They put my mugshot next to Ted Bundy's, and they told this whole 120 people potential jury panel that they're trying to bring down, right? That do not let looks deceive you, because that monster on the left is Ted Bundy, and that monster on the right is fully capable to doing what that monster on the left did. And he pointed right at me. And guess what all those potential jury members did? They looked right at me.
Yeah.
Now, Jake explained it in his episode that he was sitting at a bar and is talking to somebody who recognized him, and he figured out it was a prosecutor, and she was looking at him more with disgust than with, oh wow, hey, congratulations on what you did for Greg Kelly. Wow, we don't get it right all the time, and I'm glad that the ones that don't get it right, you're at least holding them accountable. Because guess what? I do my job right. I do it right, and I do it with honor, and I do it with integrity. And you know what I do? I seek the truth instead of a successful prosecution. That's how I wear my credential. See, if she would have said that, Jake would have been like, thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
But she said, hey, don't you understand that 90% of the time we get it right? And you want to go ahead and just bash our judicial system this way, our criminal justice system? You want to bash prosecutors this way? No, it's not about bashing prosecutors. It's just like if you're being held, you're trying to be held responsible for a crime you didn't do, and a detective who's not wearing his badge honorably and wants to get a promotion out of all of this is trying to go and prove that a high school football standout football player did a crime that he didn't do in order for him to now become a leader among all the detectives that he's now just working beside. That's Chris Daly, by the way, in my case. And that's what happened. He got promoted. But to the person that gets that jury slip, understand that you are commissioned and you are now told to bear this burden to go and find the truth in something. And if you can't find it, don't convict or don't show up.
That's right. Because
I'm telling you right now that it is worse to send an innocent man to prison. It is way worse. Because when an innocent man goes to prison, the person who actually did do it is now able to go and run out into society and cause more victims.
Yeah.
That's what happened in my case. And then lastly, I'm telling you right now, all the exonerations, now that we started the Vindication Foundation, my focal point, my lenses, my focus have been on other exonerated cases and how those cases are similar to mine. And one big similarity that I have is over 95% of the exonerated cases, jurors have come forward, the same jurors that convicted them, and now that they're innocent, or now that they're pretty close to being declared innocent, they're now singing a different tune.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh my gosh, I really wish I didn't convict because I've been losing sleep almost every night since I did it. In my case, the jurors, there was 2 jurors that were hanging on for dear life saying, I can't convict this kid.
Yeah.
I can't. The prosecutor didn't do their job. There's no evidence to convict Greg Kelly. Like, I just don't sit well with sending him potentially to 25 to 99 years prison. Thank you, at least, for holding your ground for however long that you did. But I'm telling you right now that at the end of 14 hours on deliberation day, the jurors came back into that jury box and sat there and got the last instructions by the judge telling them that if they could not, this is 14 hours later, that if they could not reach a verdict in the next 10 minutes, then they would have to be room and board into a hotel close to the jail or close to the courthouse. And they have to come back the next morning to continue. And of course, arrangements will be made with their work and you know, whatever responsibilities and things they need to do, arrangements will be made, but you have to continue tomorrow. Well, they go back and 5 minutes later, they have a verdict. And they had come back and I'm found guilty 5 minutes later. Now, of course, I get found guilty and I get sent away to the penitentiary. And one of the jurors, after my case gets reopened and all this new evidence of innocence that's proving to my innocence gets brought forward, this juror does this interview with KVUE News. He says, I need to do this, but I want you to black me out because I don't want the community to know who I am. Okay. He said, he's like, I lost sleep every day doing this to Greg. Like, I think he's innocent. I always thought he was innocent. But then he started crying in the interview. And this juror said, when we went back in to that jury room, a couple of jurors stood up and saying, I'm not going to stay in a fucking hotel tonight. I have medication. I have work tomorrow. I have a life to live. What about my life? And the 2 people that were holding off following their convictions, they flipped. They flipped in 5 minutes and they went back in and they sent me to prison. So if you get that slip in the mail, know what you've been commissioned to go do and make sure you're equipped for it. And if you're not, then we will educate you. So if you want to be educated, if you want to know what it takes to sit confidently, knowing that you're not going to lose any sleep at night, if you hold off and say, hey, we need to retry this sucker, prosecution, come back with a better case. Because what you did was absolute bull crap. Come back with it, and we'll do it again. We need people like that in our society. And maybe our justice system can potentially get on the road of being fixed. So that's how important it is.
Yeah. I think this is a very valuable episode because I think it shows one, what we're doing, right? And it's bigger than running. And I think for our audience to understand, I think the reason why you're running is because God said start, and I don't know where to start. And he told you to run and just run. And that's it. And I think now we're starting to understand that, like, you're getting ready to go run 31 miles next weekend, right? The 16th or the 17th, is that right? 17th, 18th?
Yeah.
17th, 18th, I'm going to go run 31 miles. Suffering 31 miles for Guy Heinze Jr., suffering 31 miles for the 70,000+ people that are going through exactly what you went through that aren't sitting on this couch right now. Right. And so I think a lot of people have been curious, like, what is the Vindication Foundation? What is Greg doing? Right. What is the running? What is all the videos that he's posting? I think this is a great episode for people to get to understand who the Vindication Foundation is and what we're doing now. And the Vindication Foundation was not just started a few months ago. It was started when Jake Bryden got that megaphone and he went to Leander High School.
Oh yeah.
That was when the Vindication Foundation started. and we saw you walk out, right? And we see what's going on in your life now, and we see what's been done through people like Jake Bryden and what's going to be done through the foundation, the Vindication Foundation, right? And so I think it's extremely important. I challenge our audience to follow us and follow us on all platforms and be a part of what we're doing. We can't do this without you. Greg wouldn't be here without you. This podcast wouldn't even be a podcast, without you who fought for him, who's sitting on this couch so we can share amazing stories. And so I think this episode was necessary. I think it was important. And I'm challenging you, the audience. Right now, it's not about money. If you can generously contribute money, that's great. But nothing is more powerful than your voice. Nothing is more powerful than your platform. Sharing this message, sharing Guy's message with the world, sharing what this foundation is with the world. And one person at a time, one share at a time, this foundation is going to save so many lives. And I'm confident in that. And so I'm glad we got the opportunity. When we first started, we were like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And I think this is exactly what we needed to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think this has been a great episode. I think it's been super informing for our audience to understand what the Vindication Foundation is and how they can be a part of it now. And so I think what you're doing is phenomenal, and it's amazing, and you deserve your flowers. And I told you the other day, your face never gets replaced, right? This foundation is never a foundation without Greg Kelly, right? It's never a foundation without Jake Bryden, who fought for Greg Kelly. And there's never going to be a Guy Heinze sitting on this couch without the Vindication Foundation.
Oh yeah.
And so there's going to be many Guy Heinze. But your one last message to our audience, who's like, I'm in. What do I got to do? Where can I sign up? How can I help? How can I be part of? And what it means to you, who was sitting behind bars fighting for your life, who now has the opportunity to be a husband, to be a father, and to do the things that you deserve to be able to do in your life.
I when I got out of prison, it's so weird. When I got out of prison, I was walking out of the Williamson County doors, and I knew that my family and my friends and the media crew was all on the other side of that door. And if you watch a documentary, you'll see that whole scene. It's so beautiful, and it's just coming back together. And my wife, my girlfriend, she was a girlfriend at the time, and she came and just embraced me, and it was just like we were stuck together. Like there ain't no ripping us apart anymore. Like it's not going to happen. And she's now my wife, and we're about to have a little girl. I'm about to start a family. Something that I never thought was maybe it wasn't a for sure thing at the time. And it's a miracle. And my appreciation of being a father is everything for me. And the more that I look at kind of stepping in this season of purpose in my life and service in my life, the more I feel like I want to be able to be that dad that makes my girl proud. And because she's an absolute miracle in my life, and I want to be a miracle in her life.
Yep.
And when I walked out of those doors, I made a commitment and a covenant with me and God that I'm not going to spend another day treading water. And what that means is that I'm not going to just stand in place. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it was just maybe the only prayer that I could muster up. And I know what that means now, because maybe at one point it meant starting a business to be financially secure enough and to buy a house, to buy a car, to have a roof over our head, food on the table, to have a stable situation, to now, get employees that I could trust to step away now and to now operate in this purpose and this service of what God really, really wants me to be. Because God didn't create us to work. He didn't create us to go and work a 9-to-5 every day and that be our purpose. It's a terrible purpose, man. He didn't create us to win either, because you should never find your purpose in winning. Because when you lose, who are you? Unless you have a great relationship of understanding that in the loss, there's lessons. So he didn't create us to win either. But what did he create us for then? He created us maybe for the process and the journey and the lessons we get to learn in life and the people we get to meet and the relationships we get to make. So I'm understanding this now. And the more that I understand this, the more I get fired up to go be of service and be a Jake Bryden for somebody else, because we're all getting our own story written in life. And I feel like our purpose in life isn't necessarily to go and make money, to go and get more possessions. It's to go and win a bunch of stuff, to get that promotion. That's not our purpose. Those are all nice. But maybe our purpose is to figure out what type of story God's trying to write in our lives. And when you understand that, you're truly living. And I feel like I'm truly living right now. And I ask you and I invite you to please live with me in this journey. Understand that if you haven't found your purpose yet, and this is how you can get involved, then let's go hand in hand and let's go fight for this guy. And let's go spread awareness and spread education. That's what I got.
I appreciate it. I think it's a great episode. And I think it gives our audience an understanding of what we're doing, who we're fighting for, and how they can fight with us. So
there it is, boys episode.
If you like this episode of the Get Back Podcast, like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and do me a favor. Go visit thevindicationfoundation.com. Follow us on all platforms. And please be a part of joining us in this fight. We'll see you on the next episode.